Hey there, Adam.
Hey, yeah. That Godlis.
That's me.
Hi.
I love that you come into the set like that. That's great.
I wasn't planning. I was planning on being here, but I.
No, it's nice like that. I like that.
Oh, good. Okay. And then
Take your time.
time is this has been taken. There I am. No, I'm ready to go.
All right. I guess I am.
You are very monochromatic as usual.
I like being monochromatic. Every once in a while, I fool people. I like to just pull out like something with a little bit of color in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but today's not that day.
A red splash, perhaps.
So yeah, sometimes like a red T-shirt under a black shirt, something that throws people off.
Yeah.
I have a red jacket that but I only wear it at night because it looks too red in the
I
daytime.
understand. Right.
And
right.
when I bought it, I was going to get ready to return it like from Uniqlo until I had to ask my friend, because one of my friends I ran into was just, "You never wear red. What are you doing? I don't recognize you." And
what
then
are you doing?
So, well, I ran it by my fashion friend. And I said, "Should I buy this jacket or not?" And I did a picture of myself at the store.
Right.
And my
I see.
Huh?
Right.
Yeah. And my fashion friend said yes. And I went like, okay, I'm going to do it then with confidence. So I wear it, but I wear my black jacket 3/4 of the time.
And when did your penchant for wearing black begin?
Punk.
Late 70s, early 80s,
early 70s.
Early 70s.
Yeah,
Before punk made the mainstream.
No, when punk made the mainstream, when I walked in and realized that things were changing from like bell bottoms and to straight leg black jeans and not blue jeans. And I tried that on and it sort of felt very comfortable. And I went like, okay, this is good for me. I like this.
Well, for a lot of people, they think of like 77 as maybe a demarcation or around 77.
For people who are in New York, it's around 74.
Oh, that's true. Of course, I'm very American.
For me, it was 76. It was clearly,
but in the UK,
huh?
Right,
Yeah, for me, it was coming to New York in January of 76. But more recently, I remembered that part of one thing I know. Oh, I forgot to turn that notifications thing off. How do I do that?
Yeah, you can.
I just keep talking and allowed to go. I think I know how to do it.
I can edit. I can edit. I can do a little
editing.
editing.
The notifications. Someone once showed me how to do this.
Yeah, you go to
put on do not disturb.
Right. Or you can go into the system preferences.
That's where I am.
Oh, and notifications. Right.
And so what time is it? It's 7:15. So from 7, I can do this. I'm not a millennial, but I can do it.
Have nothing but confidence.
PM to 10. I'm glad you do. 10 PM. That should do it, right? Turn on do not disturb. Okay. We'll see. Anyway, so I realized I moved down here like almost New Year's Eve of 1975 into 76 from Boston. But that summer in Boston, I'd seen a picture of Bob Dylan and Patti Smith that ran on the cover of the Village Voice. And I was like, what is this? Who's Patti Smith and what is Bob Dylan doing with her? And that usually is an indication of something new coming around the bend that Bob Dylan has just discovered. And so I think that would be right around the point at which I started to think maybe I should see what's going on down on the Bowery.
Yeah, I was thinking of those who kind of dabbled with punk or a punk aesthetic around then, like Mick Jagger with Some Girls, that era,
Right. Oh, for sure.
John Lennon.
John Lennon always sort of was like, he was like the cool Beatle. And
Well,
he would
yeah.
have been the Beatle that should have gone down to see what punk was all about. And of course, the Beatles themselves in Hamburg were the epitome when they were dressed in leather jackets before Brian Epstein put them into Beatle clothes.
In the in the mod
They,
suits, right?
they were perfectly punk in Germany when they were playing clubs before they became famous. And that was always sort of a touchstone, but it was always odd that, John Lennon didn't come down to CBGB's where we were all hanging out. And, but I had a friend who worked on the Upper West Side, and he worked at Cafe La Fortuna. He was a waiter. And he would tell me John Lennon would come in there all the time. He said, I speak to John Lennon all the time.
Yeah.
Comes
Was
in.
was Lennon friendly with David Peel?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was working with David Peel long, in the early 70s when he first got to New York. The person who was mixing both things was Bob Gruen, my photographer friend who was in New York, who was just like a few years older than me, and like me is a Jew with curly hair and a photographer. And
wait, you're a Jew?
I'm a godless Jew.
I've seen the posts. Yeah.
So Bob Gruen did take John Lennon down to Club 47 on, I want to say Club on East 4th Street. I'm drawing a blank on the exact number of it. Because Club 47 sounds like the one in Boston as well. But there was a kind of a cross-dressing nightclub that was really semi-famous that the New York Dolls played at.
Right, I was going to bring them
down
up,
on
right.
East 4th Street off of 2nd Avenue. And
Yeah.
I know Gruen told me he took Lennon down because Lennon wanted to see the Dolls and what was going on down there.
Right.
So John Lennon would have had access to everything that was going on through Bob Gruen, but he just didn't show up. The Rolling Stones, on the other hand, showed up.
Who did?
And you're talking about now I think you're talking 1978.
I am, yeah.
About when Some Girls came out.
Yeah.
They showed up down, it's like I was at CBGB's and somebody said to me, the Rolling Stones are up the block at Gildersleeve's, which was kind of a dull bar, a block up from CBGB's. And I'm going like, why would they go to Gildersleeve's when the real thing is happening here? And that night, of course, the Dead Boys were playing. And I sort of walked up to that bar to see what the hell, if they were really up there. And there was Mick Jagger and Ron Wood just hanging out, drinking and pretty drunk. And that was right around the era that they were getting ready to record Some Girls, which they then figured out what was happening on the Bowery, which was an imitation of what they were doing as the Rolling Stones back in swinging London in the 60s. And they said, oh, these guys are imitating us, we'll imitate them back. And so Some Girls was a very New York City, like, we're taking this stuff back. And it was a perfect, kind of album that moved them into the next stretch, because nobody cared about, at CBGB's, nobody cared about, it's only rock and roll, but I like it. And them hanging out at Studio 54, it was like, who cares about that? We want the Stones when they had Brian Jones and were really cool. And they got them because they recorded Some Girls to imitate the punk scene.
You got to see, did I see photos of you went to see Dylan?
I saw Dylan a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan a few weeks ago. Yeah, he was at the Beacon.
Right. I thought I saw a number of people. I saw you like
you can't, yeah. I was out. Yeah, because you can't take pictures inside.
Right.
You can't take, Bob Dylan is, the people, everybody records every show. Sure. And there's people that do sneak pictures. But Bob Dylan's got his people all over the Beacon, like, don't take pictures. So why bother? So I didn't bother to take pictures because I took pictures outside, which is what everybody did. And you can always cop the pictures from inside and see what he really looked like up close.
Right.
Yeah, Bob Dylan is, huh? How was it? It was an extraordinary like night. Bob Dylan, when he did this new album right in the middle of COVID starting in March of 2020. He dropped an album in the middle of nowhere. Everybody was like, sitting around doing nothing, stuck at home. And Bob Dylan drops an album, and he didn't really drop an album. He dropped one song.
Right. I remember
And
that.
everybody went, oh, that's one song about Murder Most Foul, about the Kennedy assassination.
Wasn't that which was a bizarre 15 minutes long
Yeah,
song.
exactly. And then everybody said like, well, that's a nice gift. And then 3 weeks later, he dropped a second song, and everybody said, well, that's an interesting song. I wonder if this is an album, because he didn't tell anybody, obviously. And everybody was made to keep silent, who worked on the record with him. And so then 3 weeks later, he finally said, okay, here's one more song, and there's going to be an album coming out in June. And so he put that album out, and then everybody was still stuck inside. And so this concert that he played this time around was pretty much that whole album, which was great. It was really kind of interesting. He was like, I'm not doing hardly any of my old songs. I'll do a few for you, but I'm not doing Blowing in the Wind. I'm not doing Like a Rolling Stone. I'll do some obscure ones. And then he was very chatty. I guess I'm a little chatty today, but he was, for Bob Dylan.
You're supposed to be chatty.
Yeah. So he was chatty. He was chatty. And he in every town, because I kind of followed the tour online, but in the show I saw, somebody screamed out a song for him to play. And he went, this isn't Springsteen on Broadway. You're in the wrong show. You were at the wrong show. That's what he said right off there. Somebody screamed out, like, play this. And he went, you're at the wrong show. That's Springsteen on Broadway. You're in the wrong show. And
that's great. That's great.
And then at the end of the show, he did a film
experience to hear that. Yeah.
Because he introduced the band, and he said, this is New York City, the home of, who did he say? Oh, now I forget. He had like 3 famous people like that.
Okay.
He said that there's New York City. It's great to be in New York City, the home of this, this, and this. And then he said Sylvester Stallone. And then you'd be interested, because he immediately went on like, his last movie should have won an Oscar. It didn't win an Oscar. It should have won an Oscar. You should see his last, what's the name of his last movie? The Last Something, right? And he started going on and on about Sylvester Stallone.
Bizarre.
Yeah, so who knows?
I wonder if it got back to Stallone. That would.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did, because he did the same thing in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, he started talking about
that makes
the Rocky
sense.
statue.
Right, of course.
And Sylvester Stallone again.
Yeah.
And then somebody recently pointed out that in his new paintings, he paints various things that come there. Have you read about his paintings?
I don't know that I've read about him.
There's a guy named Scott Wormuth, who's a really interesting guy, who's like a Dylan guy, who kind of delves into like, where did this line come from? Where did he steal that line from? Well, his paintings, many are from movie stills, from various movies. And Scott Wormuth can pull out, if like Dylan does like 10 new paintings now down in Florida, he has a new show. And they're stills from various obscure or famous movies. And Dylan gets the still, he gets the still, and then he paints it.
How strange.
And so this guy, Scott Wormuth, looks at every painting and goes, oh, this one's from a David Lynch film. This one's from this film. This one's from that film. And so Dylan, obviously, who takes a lot of lines in his songs from film noirs and various movies. Like if you look back, he takes lines out of like famous film noirs.
Okay.
And then turns them into lines in his songs. He's a movie fanatic. And so it shows up in his paintings, it shows up in his songs, and it shows up in his onstage chatter at the end of a show at the Beacon Theater.
Well, for him to be chatty and coherent.
Oh, very coherent. Yeah, and he's 80, and he's totally.
I know. Well, it's not the age that ever was the issue. I mean, as far as like some of his riffing, was always kind of like, sometimes didn't seem to make much sense, but I don't think it had anything to do with his age. It just had something to do with his.
Well, he's an odd character.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan's an odd character, and he comes from an odd. He has odd associations, which was what are partly what makes his songs so great. But he's also he's an odd character, like,
Well, and living the kind of life he's lived over 60 years of being iconic almost from the start,
yeah.
and living a life on the road and living, I don't, he probably doesn't remember time when he wasn't famous, and
He's on the road all the time. I ran
yeah.
into him one time on Fourth Avenue. I had like a Dylan run it
Wow.
on Fourth Avenue. It was in the 1980s, and
Okay.
and he walked by me, but he was wearing a hoodie sweatshirt over his head. So I didn't at first. He walked by me on Fourth Avenue, and I went, I think that was Bob Dylan who just walked by me, but he didn't have his hair because it was in the hoodie, and I kind of watched him walk up Fourth Avenue. I said, I'm not going to take his picture. I'm not going to bother him. But I just watched it like just below 14th Street. And I watched him walk up and he went to each window of each shop front and he did like this inside the window to look and see what was inside these little watchmaker shops and stuff that were on Fourth Avenue. He walked up to the next window and he like looked inside. And then he walked up to the next one and he looked inside. And then he kept walking and then he kind of tripped on the corner. And then he steadied himself and then he turned around and I went, it's Bob Dylan. I was right.
Wow.
That was my spotting. But like he seemed to be, what I saw was not Bob Dylan. What I saw was like Bob Zimmerman.
Yeah, Robert
guy
Zimmerman,
who's not being Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he's an oddball. I mean, like you've heard those stories where he likes seeing the house that famous people grew up in when he's traveling on tour. And that one time he went to Jersey to look at, I think, Springsteen's house or something.
In Freehold.
And he didn't bring his ID and the police stopped him and they thought there was just some crazy guy walking around the neighborhood.
And they were not far off the mark.
No, it was Bob Dylan. They had to go back to his tour bus.
Right.
And he does that. Like he went to look at Neil Young's house when he was in Canada.
He's pals with these guys. Why does he have to?
Because he's on tour and he's in the town near where they were, and he wants to see the house. In fact, I think I read about his house, the house he grew up
in Hibbing.
In Hibbing, and at one point his brother and him were selling it when his mother was getting older and she was still living there, and his father had died. And part of the sale of the house involved that the people who bought it that Bob Dylan could stop by if he wanted to and see his bedroom.
Oh, I love it.
That went into so they got the house at a reasonable rate and Bob Dylan could stop by if he wanted.
Sure. Is there a plaque, you think?
No, now some Dylan fanatic owns it.
Because I always imagine in Coney Island, there was like a stack, rather a plaque at Woody Guthrie's house or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. The people in the know where his house was, and then
sure.
And the
did
people
you see
in the know,
you're a New York Film Festival guy.
I am.
Speaking of something kind of related to this, did you see Bergman Island?
I didn't. That's the Mia Hansen love film.
Yes.
I missed that one.
Oh, okay. Well, you can. I mean, you'll be able to see it soon. It was kind of an interesting film. It's because it all takes place on the island. I can't pronounce it. It's a Swedish island where, of course, Bergman's island. It was his island, and a lot of it is it's like it's kind of a major tourist spot.
Oh, is it?
And in the movie it is.
Okay.
In the film, they shoot it on that island, and a lot of it, I think they probably incorporated locals into the film to some degree. There are some people that live on the island.
I like her films a lot. I have to see that.
Yeah, there's another one I just missed recently, but I just was thinking about that because I think I totally love the idea of going to Bergman's house would be a thrill.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a strange thing, but nonetheless, if you're not like crazy about it, if you just have a real need to see what what went on there. I went to where
I don't-
Moby Dick was written in
Oh,
that's sort of
in Massachusetts.
Western Massachusetts. Yeah, actually it was when I did I photographed Kent Jones' wedding.
Whose?
Kent from the film festival.
Oh, Kent Jones. Oh, I
Kent
didn't know
Jones
that.
asked me to photograph his wedding.
Oh, when was
He
this?
got-
A
this
long
was-
time ago.
No, this is a recent wedding,
Oh,
probably 3 or 4 years ago.
because I know he has children, so it's from an.
Yeah, but this is a second wedding,
Oh, okay.
second marriage.
Okay.
And so he had asked me to photograph his wedding, which it happened like a week after the film festival ended, and
Okay.
it was out in
So it's
I went-
was this 2019?
no, it's earlier than that. It's probably
Oh,
like
okay.
4
Yeah,
years.
because I'm
ago.
thinking, yeah, because of course 2020.
Because we had 2
doesn't
years
count,
where we couldn't
and
go,
then-
and then it's
right,
probably
and then
1 or 2, and it was
2019. I think was was that his last year?
I think it was either his last year or the year before his last year.
Right.
And so when I was out there, he had like grown up out there in the town where the
Right.
wedding was. And so he had recommendations for everyone of places to go visit. And one of which was the house where Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick.
Which is,
And that was interesting for me.
sure. Well, I've been to the Frida Kahlo house in Mexico City, and I've been to Freud's house in Vienna.
Wow.
I mean, in my travels, I sound very worldly, but I
No,
guess
that's it.
but and I'm sure I've been to a few authors. I'm sure of it. I'm probably forgetting. But where were you married, Godlis?
I was married in Massachusetts. I imported my wife from Massachusetts. Well, I lived in Massachusetts and until from 69 to 75, the 20th century, 1969 to 1975. And then after I moved to New York in 76,
Uh-huh.
I met my wife on a trip back.
Oh, okay.
And then we were married in Middleborough, Massachusetts, which is near Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Oh, I know where that is.
She grew up in Turkey country, like actually in what do you call it? Cranberry country, where they make where cranberry bogs are.
Oh,
And also she she grew up near the Plymouth plantation. So it's like the Disneyland of pilgrims. And so if you wanted to go see pilgrims, kids in her high school would dress up as pilgrims. That would be your job. You can get a job working at Plymouth plantation dressing up as a pilgrim. And,
I recently found out that the Pilgrims first stopped actually in Provincetown
oh, that's interesting.
before Plymouth Rock, before Plymouth.
Because
They
Provincetown,
thought they found Provincetown too gay.
get out of here.
I'm kidding, but they did actually. I think that is true.
Well,
They did first
that would
build-
be the land they'd see on Cape Cod before they got to the mainland,
Yeah, I think that's true.
right?
I got married in Nashville. Actually,
That's very romantic.
it was great. I have to say, I don't think my ex-wife is watching, but I would say it was might have been the apex of our relationship. I mean, no, we had a wonderful wedding, beautiful wedding on a magical night. It was really something. And it was just at a beautiful location. And, everybody I invited came to Nashville.
That would be a place
all
to
my
go. For
family,
sure.
all my family came. Sorry.
That would be the place to go. I would go to a wedding in Nashville.
Oh, and it was, Nashville's kind of changed over the years. It's the same way they talk about, New York or Austin, it's, these cities are of course always changing,
right.
but it still seemed, I just, my in-laws were there, so we'd go all the time. And then I was still working at music industry. I was actually working at Sony where, Bob Dylan was making albums.
Ah, okay.
And we had an office on Music Row, and I always loved going there because you would go to lunch, you had friends I created friends, and they just loved this Jewish New Yorker guy coming.
Oh, I bet.
And I mean, there's a you know, there's a little tinge of perhaps of benign anti-Semitism, if that's a thing.
Oh yeah,
because it's like you're Jewish, so you're exotic kind of thing. A little bit. I was also, but I became good friends with some people there, and I would always go, and they'd always enjoy seeing. We'd go to lunch, and you'd go there, and you'd see somebody like, what was the guy with the sausages?
Jimmy Dean.
Jimmy Dean. You'd see like a Jimmy Dean there, or you just see some famous country singer or something. So it's like pretty. I always enjoyed going there and having those kinds of, and everybody's of course so nice.
Yeah. And, Massachusetts is kind of like the South too, a little bit. There are parts of Massachusetts that are, very.
Yeah, it's provincial.
Kind of, what would now be Trump country a bit.
A little bit of that.
Except they're in the north, so it's a little different.
Right. Yeah, but I even have it up here where I am.
But it's very low. The kind of Jewish sentiment just comes from them not meeting many of them.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
They're kind of a little bit confused.
Yeah, exactly. It's not out of some sort of negative stereotype or some sort of,
Yeah. It's not like they think, the people that root for the Yankees are Jews. Those are New Yorkers.
Yeah.
But the Jewish people are just a little confusing to them. They didn't even have, when I was living up there,
there's also
had bagels.
But there's also, especially what my experience, I mean, I did live in Boston for a couple of years in the 80s. And, but when I think in Nashville and in that part of the, the South where it was more, also there was by then, which would have been the late 90s when I started going there regularly, there was such iconic shows like Seinfeld and, you know what I mean? So it had crossed into the, into the mainstream popular culture. So you're automatically, I think there might've been like associations like that. Also, I mean, they're famous rock stars so the people in the music industry, I'm sure, had some sense of.
They all had lawyers and stuff that were like, and managers.
Yeah.
But what's more like the South is Maine. Maine is very much. You go to pockets of Maine, and that's all the way out there.
Yeah.
My wife has family in Maine.
Oh, really?
And
right. Well, the New England side of your.
Right. Yeah, the New England. That's how they migrate from Maine down to where the factories were in Massachusetts to get work, and then eventually they meet the crazy Jews. It's all how the world works.
Yeah. Speaking of different cities or locations, I mean, Miami. What about you?
I love Miami.
You do?
Well, Miami Beach. When I did this book.
What book would that be? Godlis. Wow. You have a new book called Godlis Miami. What a coincidence.
It's really funny, isn't it? But Miami Beach and Miami are not the same place. They're slightly different. And when I did this book, I was doing it with a publishing company in the UK. So I had to inform them that Miami Beach is not Miami. Miami Beach is a whole other place.
Yeah, of course.
I was thinking today that Miami, because the book's about Miami, and you and I both know film, that that book, the book I did, my experience with Miami crosses paths with all kinds of various film moments. One of which is we recently last year got One Night in Miami. The movie.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right. About where the
Muhammad Ali.
The night in Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke.
Right.
Was Malcolm X one of the?
Yeah, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, and
the fourth was, oh dear.
Yeah, wait a second. Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, and
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown. Well, I was in Miami Beach that week that fight took place. My grandparents, the reason I was going to Miami Beach so often is I had grandparents that had retired in the 1950s and moved to Miami Beach.
Wow, they were pioneers.
A little ways, but what do I say in my book? It's like, goodbye snow, hello coconuts. It's like, it's for immigrants that had come to America from Russia, actually the Ukraine. No, actually my those grandparents were from Russia, and came to New York and then spent their whole life, making a living in New York City, and then retiring to an area where it was warm all year round.
Right.
Like, great. That was like heaven to them. And then as a kid, for me, it was like, I used the phrase in my book, Jewish. It was like Jewish Disneyland, but it was just fun. I loved Miami Beach and
it
palm
was a great
trees.
place.
And I did love the coconuts. I never saw somebody open up a coconut and get milk out of it.
And you saw that in Miami?
Well, when I went as a kid, I was like 5 years old. But when I was 12 years old, the one night in Miami night in January of 1964 happened. And I was down there when then Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, was Cassius Clay, was getting ready to fight Sonny Liston. And I asked my mother if I could, I knew the gym where he was training was nearby where my grandparents lived. And so we went over there. I said to my mother, can we go over there? And we went there and I got Cassius Clay's autograph.
You did?
Before the fight.
Oh my God.
And he was supposed to lose that fight. Sonny Liston was the favorite, or on paper was the favorite. And Cassius Clay was the loudmouth. Right. And I saw him come down the steps, and he was, if there's a William Klein film, they showed it at the film festival a couple of years ago. It was made back then. It's William Klein is a photographer, but he was also a filmmaker. And he made a documentary about Muhammad Ali, the year of that first fight and the second fight. And in his documentary, he goes to the same gym I went to. And it's the same, he went the day that the Beatles were there.
Oh, that's the famous shot where he punches all four of them.
Yeah. So anyway, 1964, I was in Miami Beach. I got Cassius Clay's autograph, and then he won the fight. And I was like, wow, I've got the winner's autograph. And now there's a movie about that. Not to mention the William Klein documentary.
Yes. My go-to Miami Beach, because you said Miami. Yeah, Miami Beach. You were more enamored with the beach, Miami Beach.
Miami Beach is my place. Miami was.
I was thinking of the fantasy sequences from Midnight Cowboy.
Oh yes, when he goes down, he takes the bus down.
Yeah.
And dies in Miami.
Well, yeah, it was literally as they're literal, right? That's the literal part of this fiction story, as opposed to the fantasy sequence part of the fictional story, which is where before they even leave, he's having fantasies about him and Joe Buck running on the beach of.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, those sequences where they're cooking at like kind of almost like a luau type of thing with all these blue hair, the older women at the pool, running on the beach, which was where he says, when we get down to Miami, you can't call me Ratso no more.
That's good. You're very good at that.
I'm Rico.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Right, don't call me Ratso. And he says, yeah, that was the thing. It was a new start for them both, right? And I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about that movie, but
I love when
the fantasy sequences they're running, and Ratso has no limp and he's running on the beach. It's a beautiful, and he's outrunning Joe Buck.
Right.
It's a beautiful sequence. So I don't know. For all I know, they shot that at some other beach. They could have shot that in.
Yeah, that's for sure possible. But I love that movie. The other Miami Beach movie, which I mentioned in my book, is with Frank Sinatra and Edward G. Robinson. Why am I drawing a blank? Come on, Dave.
It's okay. Here's where editing comes in handy.
Thank you.
There will be no moment where Godlis is forgetting anything.
The other movie in Miami Beach that I talk about in my book is Hole in the Head. Frank Capra. Do you know that movie?
I don't. I mean, I've heard of it, I think, but I don't.
For
I
me,
don't think I've seen it.
I saw it as a kid.
Okay.
And it was filmed in Miami Beach in 1958 and came out in 1959. And Frank Sinatra sings a song with a little kid in it, and Carolyn Jones is in it, and Edward G. Robinson is Frank Sinatra's brother, who he wants. Really? Yeah, because Frank Sinatra's brother, he's running a hotel in South Beach on Ocean Drive, and he needs money, so he calls his brother in New York, and his brother's like, "You're a bum. You're a bum. I gotta come down and give you money," and the movie Hole in the Head, aside from I'm remembering it, and it's a pretty good movie. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's written in Elmore Leonard, the writer.
Yeah, sure.
Wrote a book called La Brava. And I got that book in 1985, 10 years after I took these pictures for the book, just for beach reading. And it happened to be a book about a photographer on Ocean Drive who photographs old people on the beach. And I'm going, that's me. Yeah. Elmore Leonard did a book about a photographer photographing old people on the beach. And then part of the storyline is the photographer's friend runs the Cardozo Hotel, which is the hotel where Hole in the Head was filmed. And in the backdrop of the book is the owner of the Cardozo Hotels keeps talking about when Frank Capra and Frank Sinatra and they all came down here and they filmed a movie,
So that film and this photographer character are central themes.
So that's how I know all this stuff about the film and when it was made, from reading that book.
But it was a convergence of this stuff that made it so.
Yeah, so the movie Hole in the Head is great because it was filmed in the Cardozo Hotel.
Right.
The book La Brava is great because it's Elmore Leonard, and it's the first Elmore Leonard book I ever read, and that talks about this history of the Cardozo Hotel and the movie itself, which fascinated me. But that book has never been made into a movie.
Right, that was my next question.
Dustin Hoffman optioned it, but it never got made. Now the other movie what's the other movie with
John Travolta
with J-Lo before she was J-Lo when she was in
Nowhere Out of Nowhere?
And that's not the name. No, it's a different.
I mean, the Soderbergh film.
Yeah.
With Clooney and J-Lo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
out of they got the Leonard vibe really well.
Right.
Yeah. There's a few
Elmore
films that
Leonard.
did that.
So I find Elmore Leonard a real touchstone, and then the films that the fact we were talking about Dustin Hoffman. I don't know the backdrop of that, but I know he did option it, and it never came out, and it's still never been made. But it's probably my favorite Elmore Leonard book, partly because and part of the subplot also includes a film noir movie actress who had been in the movie and was now retired up the beach, and the photographer falls in love with her, like has a crush on her.
Sure.
But she's trying to pull a scam on him, as a film noir actresses tend to do in film noirs.
Right.
And so Elmore Leonard wrote all
very meta.
Very meta. It's all very great. I highly recommend both.
I will take it. Yeah, I'm looking. It would be nice to change gears a little. I mean, I have, to finish this book, which is.
Yeah, I see. What is that? Who's that about?
This is Sterling Hayden's memoir.
Oh, great. I love Sterling Hayden. He's another film noir guy.
Yeah, big time. And, he named names. So I have, this is one of my subjects that I
love that.
He lived with that guilt and that burden. It kind of killed him. He went nuts. But
many film noir actors did.
Interesting, right?
When I read my film noir books, there's some bad endings, some very rough endings.
Weird. But
so
then, and
well.
then I also, you'll like this one too, this book.
Mm.
So, but I have to get away from, just reading film biographies, and then it was this one.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of wonderful stuff that gets through. The film
at you.
books I
Look at
get.
you.
I know. Well, the only thing I don't have is I have a PDF of your book, but I'll pick up a copy of that. Speaking of which, where do
Yeah.
people? Are you going to be doing some in-person
I did the in-person.
appearances?
I did the in-persons. I did one in
Already done,
at Rizzoli Bookstore,
right? Naturally.
which is and I was actually down there today signing more books for them. If you want a signed copy, Rizzoli Bookstore has them.
I can't just ask you to sign a copy.
Of course, I'll send you. I've got a copy for you, and it'll be signed. And
I have your last one. From that was the last time you were on.
Book. Yeah, the street book was a good run, and that was right during COVID. And Rizzoli was the bookstore that was the only place you could get signed books. But now there are other places, like if you're in Florida, Books and Books is a bookstore.
So you went down to you did a Miami.
I did a mini tour, two places.
Miami.
Rizzoli, where I did a talk with Lucy Sant, who used to be Luke Sant.
Luke Sant.
He's now Lucy Sant.
Oh,
right.
I didn't know he transitioned.
She transitioned over the summer.
She did?
And yeah.
I missed that.
Well, I know I can't give you all the details about that, but
no,
she's now Lucy Sant, and she did the talk with me.
Did not realize that. How did that go?
Great, fabulous, because she dressed a lot better than me. And it made me look good.
Wow, she's finally wearing the authentic wardrobe she's meant to wear all her.
Yeah, and then Lucy knows so much about photography. That's why I got, when she was Luke, to do the intro for my last book.
Oh, right.
And so I did that event, and then I did one down in Florida at a place called Books and Books. And with that one, I had the head of the History Miami Museum interviewing me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
While I showed pictures, which was great. Yeah, that was really fun. Because I'm like an outsider in Miami Beach. Right. I love Miami Beach, and I would take pictures there all the time if I could. But it was nice to walk into that place, and then I could ask people that were at the event, like, do you recognize where this was taken?
Uh-huh.
And people would look at their phones and look at the picture and
that's
correlate everything for me. And then this week I'm the cover story on a Miami
kind of. I saw that.
Yeah, that's like a timeout for Miami New Times. And
right.
I'm the cover story, so people are walking around with a magazine in Miami with my pictures on the cover, which is fabulous, right?
I saw it.
You're like an outsider. I'm not like one of those guys that live in Miami and do books.
Maybe now you'll get a key to the city finally. And
well, my images were hidden. Mine were like Beatles. The stuff was in the vault for 40 years. My pictures were in the vault for 40 years. But so people in Miami didn't see them, and I couldn't get a reaction from people in Miami. And now it's kind of fun because people are like telling me, "Oh, that was there. This was that. This was this."
Right. Fantastic. Well, David, excuse me, Godlis.
You can call me whatever you want. It's okay.
I know him very well, so I can.
Yeah.
We're Mishbuka, so I can call you.
There you go.
Well, congratulations on the book. And I'll just only say I was kind of surprised because I just figured, there's a whole kind of the New Yorker kind of guy wearing the dark clothes, as we started the conversation talking about the black clothes, and who does not love summer, the heat, the sun. But in fact, here it is. Another surprise, another takeaway that you actually love Miami Beach. And
I do. I still wear my black clothes down there too, though I don't go there in the summer to do.
Well, you have your style. You have your, that doesn't change.
I still put on a bathing suit and go swimming. It's not like I wear my pants into the water. It's just a very, Miami Beach is kind of very overdeveloped now, but I I look for the places that aren't, and I found a few.
Mm-hmm.
I found.
Yeah. I know it's a little intimidating for me when I've been down there, because I always felt, and then speaking of which, we also had an office in Miami Beach, which I was at once, called Sony Discos, that was the Latin American Spanish music, American.
Yeah, and in fact, what's her name? Gloria Estefan.
Yes, I've been to her restaurant.
All right. Well, she now owns the Cardozo Hotel.
Oh, she does?
Yeah.
Good use of her money.
Yeah, that's a beautiful hotel.
I didn't know she owned it. That's amazing. Because when I was there downstairs from,
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if
that's an incredible.
She did own it for a good long while.
Because it's like she obviously aged out of the pop diva, although that's nonsense, because
yeah,
Aretha was a pop diva to the end, and but it's terrific to know she's was such an entrepreneur, impresario. But she had a restaurant downstairs on the main street up, and we were there. I remember eating paella there one day.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't touch my mother's paella, my Jewish mother's paella. She made the best paella I've ever had. Yeah, but that's another story.
Wow, I haven't had paella in a while.
I love it.
That again. I got.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So good. I'm getting myself hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, that you're getting me hungry. I'll order paella right after I'm done.
I wish I could do the same, but I'm not in the middle of the East Village or the Village anymore. I'm not downtown. I'm up in the Hudson Valley.
Oh, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
I'm kind of in the middle of the sticks a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's one thing about New York City. You can,
yeah,
you can, and even Miami Beach, you can pretty much just take a walk.
Oh, sure.
Get some good food.
Yeah, I mean, I'm across the river from Kingston. It's a small
Kingston,
city.
I know where that is.
Yeah, it's a small city.
My daughter's boyfriend is from Kingston.
Oh, okay. Well, if you guys ever come up this way, you'll let me know.
I will. I'll send her your way.
I have a very good friend who is a street photographer who lives very close by in Catskill, New York.
Okay. I have a friend, I think.
You probably know this guy. He's a little older, but you probably know him. Richard Sandler.
Of course, I know Richard.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a very good friend of mine.
To roam the streets with Richard.
Oh yeah, makes sense. He's he grew up in the same. Well, he grew up in the same neighborhood I did, but before me.
Okay.
In Forest Hills.
Right. That's right. He grew up in Forest Hills. I forgot.
So he knows friends, families that I know, but he knows like the older. What?
Yeah, the Ramones neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because Richard was friends with the guy who managed the Ramones.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But he's got you haven't been up to, you should come up and see.
I haven't been. No, I haven't. I visited him when he had an apartment here in 10th Street.
Oh yeah, no, I was been there too. But he's got a great look. Oh, it's such a cool little spot. I mean, nobody's around. It's like it's Catskill, New York. It's this old town, but he's right in the middle of the village on the main drag, and he's upstairs. He's got this amazing apartment with a dark room, and it's really something.
That's good. I could use dark.
Incredible record collection. Yeah.
Is Ted Barron up there? Where's Ted Barron? He's another photographer. Good photographer. I know they're friends, so I wonder when. Maybe it's the same town. Yeah.
Well, he's we're supposed to get together. Anyway, he's very close by.
Yeah, he just featured me on a thing that he was doing for Up Photographer Instagram page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's a very good street photographer.
Yeah, no, he's fabulous. Yeah. Big fan. Big fan of yours.
Look at that.
I know. I'm a big fan. Well, I love street photography.
Common things.
Well, it was good catching up with you.
Yeah. It's good for me to catch up with me.
Thank you.
No, it's good catching up with you too, Adam.
No, I enjoy it. And I hope to see you in person soon. And, look forward to your next book as well. You're on a tear. Oh, yeah, I'm on a tear. I need a break. I need a little bit of a break before I get on to the next one. Oh, I bet. Huh? Oh, I bet. Then we'll have something to look forward to. That's all. Yeah, no, the way I moved into this book kind of area
And I realized that it's, there's a schedule.
There is. You have to pace yourself.
You
It's
got to
very
get,
true.
you have to have the cover ready for them to put it in the catalog, like
Oh yeah,
the
yeah, right. Of
whole
course.
industry. And, when I was working on my own for the first book, there wasn't deadlines and stuff.
Right.
Now there's, once you
Oh
commit,
yeah.
you got the deadlines.
Yes,
But
right.
it's all, the payoff is nice because you get a book and you get like attention.
Yeah, and you get some marketing
People see the
attention
pictures.
and hopefully some good marketing and publicity too.
Yeah, it's like when you do a film,
Right. It's
Or
the
you-
same thing.
Yeah, these are good things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, great. Yeah. So I'll make sure you get a book copy of the book and a signed copy.
I will. I would love
This
that.
is it right here, Godlis Miami. It's
Okay.
chock full of black and white pictures of older Jewish people hanging out in Miami Beach in 1974, which was a particularly good year.
It was around the time my grandparents also moved out. It may have been the year my grandparents moved from New Jersey. What town were they in? Can't remember the town they lived in, but they moved from New Jersey down to West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Which was not quite.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody moved sort of
ocean.
up the
What's it called?
strip.
Ocean.
1950s, people were in Miami Beach, but by the 60s, they were wandering up towards Fort Lauderdale.
Well, and there was
all those
enough
other
of an
places.
industry there. Well, in Florida, South Florida had become adapted to this influx of, the geriatric group.
Yeah.
Where they started to build, these retirement communities to accommodate them.
Of course, all over.
And that's where my grandparents moved into one of the first ones, if not the first one, called, so that was in West Palm. So we used to go down there. We didn't, only a couple of times when they took us my sister and I on vacations, and we hit all the amusement parks, the sites, that we make it as far as like Miami area.
Sea Worlds, all those things.
All that stuff. Yeah. Wiki Wachi and
Yeah. And then Cape Canaveral, did you go to see where the rocket ships went off in Cape Canaveral? What is Cape Canaveral?
Oh no, I didn't. No, we didn't do that. That would have been a good trip.
Yeah. There's so much. Florida's full of crazy stuff.
I know.
I've driven down there a number of times and taken pictures along the way, because there's just like, it's like St. Augustine is a great place.
I've never been.
And there's a lot of Florida that you don't even know about, right? I mean, there's like I have a niece that lives in Pensacola.
Okay.
And my wife's mother lives in south of Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go we had to drive her to where my niece lives for Christmas once. That from Tampa to Pensacola is an 8-hour drive.
Wow.
There's that much Florida.
That is a lot.
Go to the redneck Riviera,
Pensacola. Right, you have the Panhandle.
You have to go up from Tampa, and then you have to go west towards like you're almost in New Orleans and Texas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's kind of fascinating area too. Not necessarily.
Oh my God!
New York Jew like me.
It's a very It's a.
You got to be. You got to be careful. Like even if you're stopping off the road to go pee someplace.
Right. Stay near.
They're selling guns, and they don't really not necessarily want you there. Or my wife doesn't want me to. My nice Irish wife goes like, I don't know if it's a good idea for you to go in there. I go, I gotta pee. I won't buy any guns.
And I'm not fraternizing.
I won't talk to anybody. I'll just go in and leave, come back. Yeah. But they my wife watches when I wander off at places like that in Florida.
Right.
Not in Miami Beach.
Right. You're the streak of curiosity, but of also looking for the shot is probably is a
you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
We forgot Scarface.
Miami. Oh my God, of course. How could we forget that?
That also, there's that scene in Ocean Drive where,
right.
Where Al Pacino is they kill that guy in the bathtub.
Yep.
That's a whole other
the one that's handcuffed to the rod, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Miami Beach circa after the Marielito boat lift in 80 or 81 or something. So that the pictures I took were in 1974 when the Jews were just happily hanging out. Then they got older, and then the Mariolito boat lift came in, and then they thought maybe we shouldn't hang out here. And that's just my summary of everything. But I went back there shortly after that, and I was like, where did everybody go? And
Yeah.
I'd already seen Scarface, so I kind of was like, oh, that was what was happening where I took these pictures before it became South Beach,
Yes.
the golden, beautiful colored hotels of South Beach. It was kind of divey for a
Miami
while.
Vice.
Yeah, well, it was kind of divey there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, we're talking film because your thing is a film podcast, not
It's
just
true.
a Miami book
True.
podcast.
Right. Yeah, but
But we've touched a lot of areas here.
right. And that's what I like to do.
A lot of common ground.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, and I just enjoyed chatting with you.
I do too. I enjoyed chatting with you too, Adam.
Thank you. All right. So I'll be in touch.
That's
right?
it.
I mean, of course, I'll see you around though.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
I gotta find my I have to get that my dinner now.
Oh, well, I'd offer you some of mine, but I have to order some
Oh, I know. Well, get the paella.
pizza in another minute.
Get paella. It'll make me feel better.
I don't know if I can sleep on paella tonight. Maybe I'll, but
All
I'll,
right.
it's the weekend's coming up. So, I can cook that up.
All right.
I don't have to order that.
See you later.
Bye.